So right now it's pretty funny because I'm obviously being attacked by, the dark side and whatnot with all these AI channels that have been popping up. And the first one that popped up this morning was one about it was like a divine guidance channel or whatever, about how God's breakthrough is coming when these things happen. He tried to say that for God's breakthrough to happen, you need to study more than 1 day a week to get that A on the test. And that's really a pile of nonsense to me, because he was talking about math. To do good on the math test, you have to study more than 1 day a week to get an A. And I'm like going, that directly correlates with me in all the wrong ways, because I didn't have to study to get A's on my math tests at all. My dad was basically like a mechanic and an engineer, and had made new things, like an entrepreneur in the mechanical fields. And my mom was an English teacher, right? So good luck with me having to study when my mom was basically an English teacher. My dad really loved quotes, right? He loved quotes, and he loved really, really obscure English words. So you want to talk about tossing words into my vocabulary that I will never use, and other people will never understand when I use the word, because it's such a rare word. You have to look it up in the dictionary type of stuff. So a lot of stuff that my dad had pumped in my head when it came to my vocabulary, I didn't do that. I did not absorb that, because I knew that it would, the whole thing about having a vocabulary, a deep, colorful vocabulary, is so other people can understand what you're saying. And so if no one else understands the obscure words that you're using, it's almost like a matter of control, or a matter of looking more intellectual than you really are, and also to confuse the other person. It's to make the other person feel like they can't keep up with you. And so when I saw that, it's like, I want to be able to communicate with other people and meet each other on the same level, not have some obscure word that I'm going to use that no one is ever going to understand. So that's kind of a funny thing to think about it that way, trying to tell me that I need to go study more than 1 day a week for me to be successful. Like in what field to study? What if it's artistic and creativity, right? There is no way to study that. That's like nature born. That's a natural thing. You look at a lot of the great painters and great musicians in the world, and they were born with that gift. Yes, they honed it. Yes, they worked on it. But a lot of people have the ability to just pull things out of their head when it comes to creativity, inventions, and stuff like that. Like, if you look at Nikola Tesla, right? He was like an invention machine, right? He was an invention machine, and there is no education that he could have taken that would have made him a better invention machine than he already was. He was self-educated. He had the divine creator's influence in his mind, and that's what made him such a formidable juggernaut when it came to creating new things in the world, is that he had that divine spark, that creative touch that few people have. And so I find it really frustrating when I see them, these AI channels, say these silly things. Another thing is that like Google Gemini popped up, and it really frustrated me, because they were like, here, you can test yourself on question number 1, and the question was it was a test for what led civilization from the agricultural into industrial age, and the answer to the first question was that it was, the person said better wages, and Google said no, it's it was the God, I forget exactly what it was. Inventive. It had nothing to do with, I think it had to do with like creating machinery or whatever. But that's not necessarily true to a certain extent. The two things that led the industrial revolution from the agricultural age were the cotton gin and the printing press. And the cotton gin released working hands, so you weren't constantly picking cotton in the field and pulling the seeds out of the cotton puff balls. And the second one was the printing press, because that allowed everyone to become publicly educated. And so it's kind of funny that Google is advertising this new add-on Gemini in order to publicly educate people, but then their first advertisement doesn't mention that what created the boom from agriculture to industrial era was the fact that the printing press publicly educated everyone. So it's almost ironic that this public education AI forgot on its first advertisement what the answer to their first question of their first test was public education was the answer, right? So a public education AI forgot to mention that public education was played a major role in the Industrial Revolution coming into fruition. So it's like almost paradoxical. You have an educational tool, and the first question on the first test, it forgets to tell you that the answer was an educational tool. And it's like, what is going on? What is happening here? So yeah, you could say when that stuff pops up on a daily basis that makes you want to grind your teeth and pull your hair out, that you're essentially being attacked because good things are coming your way.